Okay, shall we start?
Make it as a full screen. Renjith sir.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir, and you are visible.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the National Conference on the Conservation of Marine Resources for Sustainable Development, conducted by the V.O. Chidambaram College under the UGC Stride Scheme Component 1. Today we have in our midst Dr. K. Renjith, Scientist B, Ecology and Environmental Research Group, Center for Water Resource Development and Management, Kerala. So he is going to deliver the invited talk, lecture number 3. So I invite Professor Gomathi Nayagam sir to introduce Dr. K.R. Renjith now. So over to Gomathi Nayagam sir.
So good morning, one and all. So thank you for the opportunity given to me to introduce our resource person today. Our resource person, he completed his doctorate in aquatic chemistry in the year 2008, and he has a very vast experience in various research areas such as aquatic pollution, emerging pollutants, sustainable aquatic management, then water quality monitoring, and especially in biofuels, so etc. So there are many areas in which he has good interest, and he has published more than 15 papers in different areas. So he has given almost 20 to 25 seminar presentations, and he has at present he is handling 8 different projects from various organizations. He joined as Quality Assurance Officer in Cancor Flowers and Extracts in Kerala. Then he upgraded himself to Senior Research Fellow in the College of Fisheries, Kochi. He elevated himself as an environmental expert in Government of Kerala. Followed by, at present, he is working as a Scientist B in KSCSTE, Kozhikode. So I think he is the apt person to handle today's session. And with a big round of applause, I'm here to welcome Dr. Renjith.
Thank you.
Over to you, sir.
So I have little connectivity issues, so I may have to switch off my video. So please pardon me for that. I'll start with my presentation. Okay?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hope that it is visible, my presentation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm very much thankful to the organizers of VOCC UGC Stride National Conference on Conservation of Marine Resources for Sustainable Development for inviting me to be a part of it. First of all, I would like to thank you for the generous words. And I'm basically a marine chemist with masters in PhD, masters and PhD in, from the Department of Chemical Oceanography, Cochin University of Science and Technology. Presently, I'm working in KICST CWRDM, which is under the Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment. Okay, so basically, I think this topic is up to your this one also, your national conference also. So basically, it is integrated coastal zone management. So the basic motto or motive of this is to promote sustainable development that contributes to the nation's economy and prosperity. So sustainable development is the basic goal in this thing. So before starting with why and how you should protect the coast, we should know what are the values that actually these marine resources or marine resources, that is also a highlight of your conference. So we know that in a layman perspective, we can say that 70% of our world is being covered by oceans, and this ocean is contributing about 70% of oxygen that we breathe. Also, it absorbs 90% of the excess heat that is actually being liberated by the anthropogenic activities that actually we are exerting on this planet, and it actually regulates the climate. So it's a big way that the oceans are giving us a lot of services. You know, other things I'm not exaggerating or I am not explaining too much, because we know that without ocean we cannot survive, because ocean is the prime reason for sustenance of life on Earth. And that's why we can say that we all are connected through ocean wherever in the world we are actually living. We see, for example, the people who are living in the for example, like Coimbatore or Trichy may feel that they are not being influenced by the ocean, but we know that even a small cyclone or a small depression in the Bay of Bengal or even in the Arabian Sea can have a significant influence on the weather in their area also. So, and not to say like that, because we know that even a small increase in the temperature in the Pacific Ocean is influencing our monsoon. So that's kind of El Nino and other phenomena. So we can simply say that we all are connected through ocean. Wherever in the world we are living, we all are connected. We all are actually indebted to the ocean for the every drop of water that we drink, and also every breath or the oxygen that we breathe. We all are connected. So these are the 5 major services that oceans are providing us. And to explain all this will take more than 1 hour. So I'm not explaining all these things. And I know that most of you people are aware of these things. So these are the 5 regulatory processes that oxygen, carbon dioxide reduction, water and nutrient cycling, temperature regulation, and obviously carbon sequestration. So all these things the oceans are providing, which actually makes life possible on Earth. So we must protect our ocean for our sustenance. And we know that not just these services, they are actually giving us a lot of economical values also. Seafood industry, we know that. The mangroves, how they are actually act as a breeding grounds for all the commercial and other fishes, and coral reefs, how rich in biodiversity these areas, and how these are actually protecting the coast from the erosion, and all these acting as a natural reef barriers, like that. Everything, all these services are being provided by the oceans, and we should be thankful for the ocean. And actually, we can say that 50 to 80% of all life is found on ocean, and we have explored less than 10% of that. So there are a lot of ample scope for us to explore and to develop our database and our science for oceans. So in return, what we are actually giving? This is the question that we all have to ask ourselves, that we are actually polluting the ocean like anything. And major pollutants, I don't have to explain all these things: plastics, oil pollution, trace heavy metals, and the synthetic chemicals, pesticides, excess nutrients that is causing a lot of eutrophication, and another class, that emerging nutrients. All these are actually polluting the our ocean and making the ocean life in ocean miserable, and that actually is affecting ourselves also. So we know that by 2050, it is said, it is all everywhere. It is hyped that the plastic will overweigh fish in that ocean. And now itself, 150 million metric tons of plastic is the plastic waste that is being thrown into the oceans. And we know that only 9% of the plastic that we are, less than 10% of the plastic that we are using are recycled. So because of all this, we know that the Great Pacific Patch is now at the size 3 times the size of the France. And oil pollution is another menace. We know that, and these are creating a lot of ecological destruction to the ecology of this coast. And another, these chemical pollutants, because most of the synthetic chemicals are non-biodegradable. Because they are non-biodegradable, they are highly persistent in nature. So once they enter the aquatic system, they are not getting degraded. So what will happen is that it has a high lipophilic activity, so it gets adsorbed into the trophic chain and gets bioaccumulated and biomagnified. So that is one of the major issues, and finally it ends up in humans also. So this is something that has to be addressed on a serious note. This is heavy metals in another menace. You know that heavy metals, mercury pollution, everything is actually all these are contributing to oceans degradation. Another issue is with the emerging pollutants. So emerging pollutants is nothing new, because actually these are actually detected in very low concentration. And you know that before the 1980s, when there's analytic chemistry is not that much developed, at that time these were below detectable levels. So people were not aware of these kind of dangers. But once the development of these uh, uh, sophisticated analytic instruments, we can able to detect the nanogram levels of ppb levels of pollutants in micropollutants in the ocean. And now we can say that there is another major class that is emerging, that is called the emerging pollutants. But the saddest part is that they are not actually monitored regularly, and hence they are not being regulated at all, because their regulation criteria is not there actually specified. So there are a lot of classes of emerging pollutants are there, but you know, major two classes are microplastics. Yeah, I don't have to explain what is the issues with microplastics and all. Then IMR, antibiotics. That is another pharmaceutical waste. So actually, these pharmaceutical waste are getting accumulated in our aquatic ecosystem, and that is creating AMR, antimicrobial resistance. And WHO has been projected that this AMR is going to cause a lot of deaths in the coming in the recent years, and even cancer. So this is something that has to be addressed on a serious note. And another issue is as most of you people are aware, most of these water that is getting discharged into our water bodies actually are untreated or partially treated. So we can see that this is a recent press report. You can see that 72% of the sewage that is getting discharged into the coastal system are actually untreated. So that actually you can see that with the progress of the increase in the these things, these increase in the sewage output, there is no practical increase in the treatment facility. So that has resulted in most of these rivers systems in Kerala, in India, are actually polluted. You can identify, latest result by CPCB has identified more than 350 polluted river stretches in India, and Maharashtra has the highest number of these polluted river stretches, followed by Assam, Madhya Pradesh, even Kerala, Gujarat, Odisha, West Bengal, and Karnataka. So this is the problem, that we don't have enough of treatment facilities that actually removes the excess nutrients reaching our coastal water bodies. And these coastal water bodies are getting highly eutrophicated, and that has resulted in some other issues like reduction in the oxygen, oxygen reduction, like that. Then another major issue that has to be addressed very seriously is the climate change. So it has triple threat on ocean, because water gets warmer, then oxygen is getting deprived, and the water is getting more acidic. So these are the three issues that is actually happening with climate change, and is getting aggravated by our land use changes pattern as well. Because of these issues like climate change, we know that sea level is increasing, and corals are getting bleached, because corals, you know that there are actually the treasure house of these biodiversity. So they are getting decreased, bleached. Toxic algal blooms are now getting more and more frequent. Then oxygen, because of the oxygen stress condition, actually the habitat uh, for the organisms or the species are getting migrated, or their habitat is getting shrinked. And acidification, another major issue, because we know that once the carbon dioxide increases, that water will become acidic. So this acidic water actually is making a lot of issues with the calcareous organisms, and they have to spend a lot of energy for maintaining, keeping that their shells intact. That's why their shell thinning and other things are happening. And another major issue is with the fisheries, because you know that fishes are actually very good essential for local livelihoods and global food security. So fishes are getting decreased. All these are the major issues with climate change. And India has to worry a lot, because now we know that Indian Ocean is not like other two major oceans, because other two oceans have connection with both the poles, like North Pole and South Pole. But in the case of Indian Ocean, we are actually landlocked in the north. That's why we don't have a connection with the northern pole. So that is actually creating a lot of issues with our mixing and all. So the ocean circulation pattern is very much different in the case of Indian Ocean. And because of that reason, Indian Ocean is getting warmer at a higher rate than other oceans. So because of that, extreme heat events are now a frequent thing. And coming to this, you know that a lot of cyclones and other things are happening in the Bay of Bengal. It's common. But in Arabian Sea also, we are experiencing a lot of cyclones and lot of issues with that, because otherwise these West Coast was relatively safer in terms of these cyclones and other activities. But nowadays it has been increasing because of the increase in the temperature and the associated cyclone. So another thing that if we want to address all these things, we should start protecting our coasts. So coast, actually, we know that mangroves and these estuaries, you know that are transitional environments. These transitional environments are playing a significant role in the filtration of the sediments and the pollutants that is actually reaching from the land to the coast. And the mangroves are actually doing a lot of buffering of these pollutants, as well as providing a lot of stability to the coastal region. So we have to protect these coastal environment for protecting or saving our oceans. So coastal blue carbon is now, you know, that is the ability of these tidal coastal wetlands to sequester carbon and keep them intact in the soil. So like that, you know that it has a greater capacity. Coastal wetlands have a 10 times greater capacity than forests to bury carbon in the ground, and it has 2 to 4 times greater capacity to sequester carbon compared to the tropical rainforest. So that is the big advantage that these coastal ecosystem process for protecting the natural thing that is actually happening with the coastal to protect the ocean, or to reduce the pollutant that is getting discharged into the ocean. But what we are doing, we are actually having lot of you can see the the right side of the slide, that these are the actions that is leading to the coastal degradation. You know, mostly the land use changes, construction, conversion to other land uses, and also hydrological interventions. These two are having a lot of problems, making a lot of problems in the coast, which is actually affecting the oceans also. So cost has to be maintained. It is imperative for us to have a better strategy for the maintenance or the management of our coast. You know, India is having a very huge coastline. About 7,500 kilometers is the actual coastline area of in India, where mainland is about 5,500, and the island territories, the Andaman Nicobar and the Arabian Sea, the Lakshadweep areas, actually having around 2,000 kilometer area. So we have a very good continental region and a very wide or huge exclusive economic zone also. So it's very imperative that we must maintain our coastal areas healthy for the sustainable and economy, sustainability, and also for the economic prosperity of the country. And even saying that this area are having a significant changes in the characteristics. So this has to be addressed. We know that these are from Gujarat to West Bengal. We have a major coastline area, and these characteristics are entirely different. So this has to be accounted when we consider for a management strategy of this, or consider for the management of this coastal line or coastal zone management. We have to consider that our coastline is entirely different. It has different characteristics in different places, and all this has to be properly addressed while managing these things. And you know that even Tamil Nadu is having a coastline about 1,000 kilometers, 900 kilometers, and in Kerala, which is my place, which is having about 570 kilometer area. And these coastlines are now actually buzzing with activities, economic activities, because of the Sagarmala program that our Ministry of Shipping is launched. This has made our coastline much more active. There are a lot of development activities that is happening with our coastline. So it has to be protected, and this is the saddest situation that is actually happening with our coast areas. We can see here the west coast, almost this place, up to this place is mostly under high erosion. Mostly, you can say that 50% of Kerala state is having artificial coastlines, because you can understand, because whenever we have to reinforce our coastline with artificial structures, that means that that structure is coast is not stable. It is highly eroding. So this is the problem. Only 8% of Kerala state coastline is having stable 8% of this having a stable coastline. Even in the case of Tamil Nadu also, it's not very promising, like better than Kerala, but still it is having a lot of significant area is under erosion. And there are a lot of accretions also, but this is stable. The bottom line is that most of these coastal areas in India are not stable. It is under high erosion. And as I said, when we have to consider the management strategy, we have to see that what is the problems with our sea level rise that is happening because of the climate change associated. And you know, usually globally that there is about 3 millimeter. 0.3 millimeter is the rise. 3 millimeter is the rise in the sea level globally. But in Kochi area, it is experiencing about 1 to 1.2 centimeter per year. So it's about 3 to 4 times higher than the average global sea level rise. That's why most of the central Kerala is going to get inundated in this. So this is happening with the west coast also, and also in the east coast also. This has to be addressed properly. And another issue with the west coast is that there are, because as I mentioned, hypoxic situation, there are a lot of mass kind of fish mortality incidents are happening along the west coast. So because of the anoxic cycle, because west coast has a very prominent AMZ, oxygen minimum zone. So these are the issues that we have to tackle. So this is something that before going into ICZMP, this is something that everyone has to address. How far we can neglect the ocean, or how far the neglect ocean will continue to sustain life on Earth. As I said in the beginning, sustenance of life on Earth depends on oceans. But what we are doing to ocean is something that we have to very much think, and we have to address that at a serious note. Then only life on Earth is possible. So now, 90s, as I said, most of the heat that is being getting liberated, you are aware that more than 25% of the carbon dioxide that is being liberated by the our anthropogenic activities are actually absorbed by the ocean. That is causing the increase in the acidity, and also that oceans are absorbing about more than 90% of the heat that is being liberated by the global warming. That has also actually there that will be reciprocated because that is the return, has to be returned to the ocean, midland, and that is happening with the cyclones and torrential rains. So as I said, global average temperature in the oceans are 0.85 degree, but it increased about 1.2 degree in Indian Ocean. So that is something we have to address. And so it is bottom line is that we have to consider ocean. We have to properly address the changes in the ocean for a sustainable future. That is the focus of your this workshop. And so coming to the coast and their protection, because it is very much essential to protect our coastal zone. So coming to the coast, the the coastal zone is that definition is somewhat tricky. It is actually interaction between, you know that it is the interface between the land and ocean. It is an area of interaction between land and the ocean, and it is defined as a kind of dry land and adjacent ocean space in which terrestrial process and land process are directly affecting the oceanic process and vice versa. So whenever there is in the land area which is having a influence of the ocean. So ocean area with the influence of land. So these are the actual definitions that we can say about coastal lines. So the importance of coastal line, and definitely it is a highly dynamic zone with frequently changing chemical, biological, and geological attributes that makes this area highly dynamic and the management very, very challenging. So it's the importance of this is highly, you know that it's highly economically significant, and most of these about for index, most of you can say that globally about than 40% of the global population resides within 50 kilometers in the coastal region. So that much population and how humans are actually exerting pressure on the coastal area. The importance of coastal zone is that it is not actually well defined, because you can say that you know that everyone is aware of the geomorphology of the coastal zone. So so this coastal zone, you know that it has a territorial sea level is there, then continental shelf is there, continental slope is there, then there is a rise, and we have oceanic part, then true oceanic part is there. And here, according to the United Nations Convention on Laws of the Seas, UNCLOS, we have a well-defined boundary, international boundary. Like from there is a territorial sea up to 12 nautical mile level, which has all rights of, because in this area all the laws of the land is applicable. That means the country that is neighboring country has a sovereign rights over this particular place. But when it comes to the up to 24 nautical mile or 200 nautical miles, we can say that it is called exclusive economic zone. There, the country has a limited country, neighboring country has only limited legal rights just for actually water column and continental, not for the other activities. Then we have up to 350 nautical mile. There is other nautical mile in the continental shelf area. Also, we have some rights, but it's not having any other significant rights. And beyond that, it is international territory. But that kind of a significant or this thing is not applicable in the case of coastal zone. That is the problem, because that kind of definition is not actually incorporated in that kind of a international agreement is not there in the case of defining a coastal zone. That is actually lacking, somewhat lacking the ICs, that are integrated coastal zone management behind, because no universally accepted definition is there, not universally accepted like what we can see in the case of ULCLO, like how much area can be defined as or can be regulated under this IC system is not uniform in the case of international. So countries like Sri Lanka and Costa Rica, they have adopted a very narrow definition of coastal zone, only small band of line. We can see that Sri Lanka and Costa Rica only 200 meters from the mean high level is actually included in the coastal zone area. But in the case of countries like Indonesia and Brunei, you can say that up to 200 meter isobar, right, up to exclusive economic zone area has been regulated under coastal zone regulation. But that Brunei and Indonesia, but that is not in the case with other countries. So these are the problem that is there. In India, we have also have a 12 nautical mile limit for India, and Philippines is the only country which incorporated fisheries also into the, that is a promising sign. So ICZM, Integrated Coastal Zone Management, is a concept that is emerged from Air Summit in Rio, and it's on 17th chapter of Agenda 21. That is about the sustainability of coastals. In that, ICZM, Integrated Coastal Zone Management concept was actually originated. So it is for the sustainable development of coastal zone. By that, you have to underline optimal management of human activities in the zone. As I mentioned in the beginning slides, we are the person, we are actually destructing our coastal, which is actually polluting the oceans. So we have to have a better optimal, or we can say optimal management of human activities in the zone to improve the condition of the coastal and to maintain its diversity. So that is the bottom line of this ICZM. We have to have a optimal management of human activities in the coastal zone. So as I said, this is a very, the ICZM, it is a very dynamic and integrated, and the basic concept of ICZM is sustainable management. That is, you know that what is mean by sustainable management. So it has three ecosystem approaches there for three main standpoints of sustainable development: economic development to improve the quality of the life of the people, environmentally appropriate development. That is any development that you do without considering environment will not be sustainable on a longer run. So we have to consider, or we have to say that it should be ecosystem approach, which considers appropriate development, which is economically appropriate and equitable development also. So international. So ICES, International Council for the Exploration of the Seas, ICES, actually have a definition on ecosystem approach is the integrated management of human activities. So everything you have to underline is the management of human activities. You have to have a optimal management of the human activities in the coastal region based on the ecosystem dynamics to achieve sustainable use of ecosystem goods and services and to maintain the ecosystem integrity. So that is the main actually goal of this this ICZM, and it has to have a proper integration. IC is an integrated coastal zone management, integration between different levels. That is mean local to higher levels, local to higher level, as well as different sectors. If you don't have a proper, because we know that coastal area, we have multiple stakeholders. They have different, okay, their conflicts of interest will also be there. So there should be a proper integration between the different sectors, because one sector will be having a different interest than the other sector. So that will be conflicting. So we have to have a proper balance between the stakeholders' interest, and you should have a proper vertical integration also between local authorities to the higher level. Then only we'll have a proper management strategy that will be applicable for integrated management of the coastal zone. And the thing is that it should be tailor-made. That means one size fits all concept will not work, because we know that all the coastal areas in around the world have very much dynamic and very much have their own characteristics. As I shown in the initial slides, in India also, this 5,500 kilometer coastline, mainland coastline, is very much diverse, and we cannot have a plan in ICZM for Kochi as well as Chennai or even Tuticorin, which is having same thing is not applicable, because we have to consider what is the local characteristics. Then accordingly we have to make a proper management strategy for that thing. So one size fit for all is not going to work, but we can have a common thought process and decision making framework. That is the five. We can say that this can be a common thing, but you have to adopt. When you adopt the thing, you have to think locally. Local issues has to be addressed specifically, then only it is going to work. Because as I said, the ICZM for Chennai and Cochin cannot be similar. So it has basically five steps for ICZM. That is identification of the issue that has to be identified and quantified. For that, there is a proper integration between different sectors are required. Then after that, once you identify the issue, then you have to prepare a plan. Management plan, I see that integrated management plan has to be prepared for in the specific area, and formal adaptation. We adopt the plan, and we have to have some kind of a legal binding also. Then only is going to be implementable. Because if the power is not there, that actually what you have seen that in the case of COVID also. The government say that you have to wear mask, but once they started penalizing you for not wearing mask, then only people become aware and people started using masks. So that is what is happening with all these things. If you are not implementing something without having a legal support or penalty or legal support, it is not going to work. So that formal adaptation is going to be there. Then fourth step is active flex. Once you adopt that, then it has to be implemented, and it has to be actually evaluated continuously, because it is a no end state. Because you cannot say that it is going to end like this, because it has to be continuously evaluated, and you have to change. Because the identification issue, plan preparation, formal adaptation, implementation, and monitoring. And once you monitor this thing, you can find out some gaps in this thing. Then you can have to start the second cycle. So it's a iterative process. It is having a never-ending. It is a never-ending process. That is a continuous process. IC setup that we have to address, because it doesn't have an end state. It's the thing is that this cycle gets modified like that. Because once we start with cycle, that this thing will not be same for the second cycle. Because once you identify the gaps, what are the issues, then you have to correct that in the second phase. Second cycle, again you have to monitor, again you have to evaluate, then you will find some gaps, issues. Then the third cycle will be completely different, addressing the issues with the second cycle, like that. It's a never-ending process. So another issue is that since it is actually the people actually residing in the coastal area has to be taken into account. Because if you alienate these people or local people from this area and say that we have to protect the cost for the nation's economy development, then you should not have to do your livelihood activities that is going to hamper the environment. It is not going to work. So we have to take the local people into account, and there should be the strong kind of words for implementing this kind of IC system. So there are a lot of positives by ensuring the public participation, especially the local people for IC system. So that is a must. And this is a basic concept. Anything that is actually top to bottom approach. Top-down approach is not going to work in the case of management, because that is something like exploration. So that is not going to work. Only thing is that the bottom-up approach with the complete participation of the local people and making them into belief, confidence, then only it will work. So that will create conservation. Otherwise, it will go as exploitation. So local people have to be included in the policy making stage itself, so that their issues can be addressed properly in the case of IC setup. So it has negatives also, because local people, they may have their own personal interest and other things, which may have conflicts also, but definitely it is better than other things. So we have to manage the coast with the ICZM, Integrated Coastal Zone Management, ICZM. Is a process to promote the security of the life and livelihood of the coastal community to protect the coastal ecosystem and promote sustainable development. So ICZM has three major objectives. The promoting security of security of life, because we know that the coastal areas are highly vulnerable. They are vulnerable to so many things, and you have to protect the life and life security and the livelihood of the coastal community. Local community has to be protected. So that is the first objective of the ICZ, Integrated Coastal Zone Management. Then obviously you have to protect the coast for the sustenance of life on Earth, our economic prosperity, everything. For the everything, coastal protection is very important. For that, we have to protect the coastal, and that will create sustainable development. So these are the basic concept behind ICZM. So we have to manage the our coast and our ocean through integrated coastal zone management. And it has 5-step process. It's like, as I said, it's an iterative process. It is never ending. The inception phase is just like what I mentioned earlier. It is, so as I said, it should have a legal support. Legal support is essential for the implementation of this legislation. So if you if you say something and if you are not having a legal support, it is not going to work. So we have a ICZM, integrated coastal zone management plan. So plan has to be have a legal support. For India, it is through coastal CRZ, Coastal Regulations or Notification, which is under our umbrella Environmental Protection 1986 Act. So each country have this Coastal Zone Management Act, and like that, India is also having a Coastal Regulation CRZ Act. So this is how it. I'm not going into details because of the restriction in the time. So this is the things that actually how this has been evolved, how CRZ Coastal Regulation Zone has been evolved in India with the interest of then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. We all started looking into what is it, stabilizing our coast, and now the government is very keen on protecting the environment. And you might have seen that in the 75th year of Indian independence, we have 75 wetlands designated as a Ramsar sites. So earlier we have only 40, 41 like that. Within a short span of 6 months, we have included around 50, about half of the things in our tally. So in India, we have 75 Ramsar sites. Most are coastal wetlands. So that is a very promising sign for our country that we are actually looking on. We are actually looking into our water bodies very seriously about their protection and like that. So it's a very good sign that I would have to like highlight about that thing. So now the country, our Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is working very hard on protecting our environment. So this is the CRZ notification that came in 1991 initially, but it has not been implemented successfully after that. But in 2011 only, we have started very seriously on CRZ, Coastal Regulations on Notification, CRZ 2011, where we have started very seriously on the protection of our coast. But it was in 19th February 1991, it was first enforced in India under the EP, Environmental Protection Act 1986. Because of the changes in the notification through several amendments and shortcomings, like the first notification has been amended many times because of the disputes and all, and the failure of that to address the diversity. As I said, our coastline is highly diverse. That was not addressed in the first 1991 draft, because the condition in Gujarat is entirely different for the in the local coastal condition in Gujarat is entirely different with that of West Bengal or even Kerala or Goa, which are not being addressed, and it was made uniform throughout the entire mainland, and even for our what do you say, our Lakshadweep and our Andaman Nicobar Islands also. It's entirely different. So that has not been addressed in the 1991. It was made uniform for everything. and that had resulted in a lot of conflicts, lot of public agitation, and that has resulted in the unsuccessful implementation of that thing. So this has been addressed in the 2011 notification, and there are absence of clear procedures for the obtaining CRZ clearance and timelines, post clearance monitoring mechanism, everything has not been involved in the initial 1991 notification, but it has all rectified in the new notification that was actually introduced on 6th January 2011. In that one, they have actually included first time ICZ, separate IPZ, integrated island protection zone notification also introduced for Andaman, Nicobar and Lakshadweep Islands. And policy is basically National Environment Policy 2006 as the major policy, addresses policy needs of ICZ, but it has a components of protection for several acts like Water Act, Air Act, then even Wildlife Protection Act, EPA, and IEA, Environment Impact Assessment Notification 2006, Biodiversity Act 2004, everything is included in that. So we say that the main objective of ICZ, the CRZ, Coastal Regulations on Notification, is to protect the livelihood of the fishing community, of the local community, and the conservation and of the coastal environment, and promoting sustainable development. So these are the major objectives of these things. So we have to say that we are not alienating, we are not making the local people out of the coast in the name of protection. We are actually promoting all the layer livelihood activities, but we are restricting some of the activities for integration of the coast. So that is the thing. Then another thing, important change in this 2011 notification was water area up to 12 nautical miles. You know that up to 12 nautical miles only we have the sovereign right. So water area up to 12 nautical miles have been included in this notification of CRZ, and also tidal water bodies like creeks, rivers, estuary are also comes under regulation. Then we know that our coastal area is highly vulnerable. That's why they have included a hazard line concept. A hazard line concept was also included. And as I said, the environmental and other social issues are different in different coastal states of India. For Greater Mumbai, Kerala and Goa, they have introduced a CRZ5 category. I'll come to that thing. And they are also have a concept of CVCA, critically vulnerable coastal area. CVCA, critically vulnerable coastal area, was also included. And increasing, what they have done is that they have no development zone is something that has been introduced, which actually has been reduced in some areas for the demand of the local communities, the land restriction that the local communities are facing. Especially in the case of Kerala, you can see that Kerala has a very extensive stretch of backwaters, and there are a lot of small islands are there, which will have very less width are there. If we are implementing CRZ commonly to in the mainland, like this other places, then what will happen is that entire the island of small backwater islands in Kerala will come under CRZ purview, and people will be having a lot of restrictions on their livelihood. So that has been addressed in the CRZ notification in 2011. I'll come to the latest one also. So, so these are the one, CRZ1. There are included critically sensitive, ecologically sensitive, and geomorphological features that maintain the integrity of the coast. That are like mangrove swamps, sand dunes, etc., are included in the CRZ1. Then some heritage sites also. Then CRZ2 is the area which has been, you know, that like Mumbai, Chennai, where we have a significant development up to the coastline is there. They are included at the CRZ2 category. When rural areas under municipality, not in municipality, in the village level, panchayat level areas, which are having a very less development in the coastal area, are included in the CRZ3. which they have given a no development area zone of 200 meter from the high tide line. A no development area has been proposed, and they have introduced a ZRZ4 for water bodies, intertidal water bodies, and also water bodies up to 12 nautical miles, so that these water bodies cannot be polluted by any other means. So that is a very good positive sign. And CRZ, ICZM map is suggested in the case of 1:25,000 has to be formulated for further development in the zone. So that is something that, and you can say that for considering special consideration, we have included coastal areas of Kerala, Goa, and Greater Mumbai as CRZ5. So that is the main difference between CRZ 1991 when it is implemented and 2011. This is the CRZ 1, 2, 3 and area 4 area again. So ecologically, that first one you have to be very specific. CRZ 1A and B are there. One is the area that is ecologically sensitive. That is 1B is the area between high tide and low tide. So this is, for your information, this is the high tide line forms the cardial reference line for determining setbacks for CRZ. This is the cardial reference line, high tide line. From high tide line, we have, then there is a low tide line. So intertidal area and these 12 nautical miles, from the high tide line to 12 nautical mile area, this much area are included in the CRZ4 category. Sorry, this is included in the CRZ4 category. CRZ, the area between low tide and high tide line, this area is in CRZ1 category. So no development activities is possible in this area. This is highly ecologically sensitive area. Then the area like mangrove corals, protected islands, national parks, areas of archaeological importance and heritage sites. National parks, when there is protected national parks, everything is there. That area is highly, there are a lot of restrictions on the development activities. Then CRZ2 areas which are already developed, so they are very little less stringent in the CRZ2 area. But in the CRZ3 areas, which is having rural area, which are having less development, they have actually included a no development zone to protect the environment as such. Then CRZ4, the low tide to 12 nautical mile area and water area, this low tide to 12 nautical mile area, and the water area in, as I mentioned, tidally influenced water bodies like estuaries, creeks, etc., are also a part of CRZ4. So this is the CRZ. Then for Kerala, there is under CRZ5. This is another pictorial representation of CRZ1. So CRZ areas, no development zone is extended 200 meters from high tide line towards land in CRZ3 area. So CRZ3 area, there is a no development zone to protect the environment from the high tide area to 200 nautical miles. This area in CRZ3 is no development area where there is no development activities are permitted. So as I said, these has been actually divided into CRZ 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then the thing is that this area actually they have given lot of restrictions. Like in the CRZ area, no development activities, because they, as I said, optimal management of the human activities in CRZ areas. That is the in coastal areas. That is the main objective of this this kind of ICZ, Integrated Coastal Zone Management Plan. So we have specified what all activities are possible in CRZ1, what all activities are possible in CRZ2, what all activities are possible in CRZ3, and what all activities are possible in CRZ4. We have very good what is specified like that, so that no violation is possible in that thing. And we have made sure that this is not going to have any influence on the livelihood activities of the local people, because local fishermen, they need dryers, they need their human settlements places are there in the coastal area, which is very close to the coast. So their maintenance and all the livelihood activities they need harbors, fishing harbors and everything, that has to be actually constructed and maintained. So that will not have any influence, but other activities are highly restricted in especially CRZ1 area, where setting up of new industries and expanding existing one is restricted. Those having direct relation to only those industries or those industries which are having direct relation to the waterfront or require a foreshore facility will be allowed in CRZ areas. That for in the case of like construction of a port, you know that port cannot be constructed in dry land. So port should have a waterfront requirement, foreshore facilities required. Then for that kind of industries, there are a lot of liberties. Otherwise, no other industries are possible in the CRZ areas, coastal areas. And no dumping is possible, no sand mining is possible, no construction activities in CRZ1 area. So that is very strict in the case of. Then, as I said, in the case of islands, we have ICZ, Island Protection Zone IPZ notification, Island Protection Zone, like CRZ, Coastal Regulation Zone notification. We have IPZ in the Island Protection Note notification, especially for the islands. We have about 1,382 islands, 836 in the Andaman Nicobar and 32 in Lakshadweep Islands. So the islands, they have a specific integrated management plan, which is, you know, that it should not be mixed with the mainland, because the features of these islands are entirely different from the mainland. So it cannot be combined together. That's why they have a specified IPZ, integrated Island Protection Zone notification 2011 for the integrity of coastal zones. So, as I mentioned earlier, these hazard coastal lines are highly eroding or it's not stable mostly. So, the protection, livelihood and life of the coastal people has to be protected. For that, we have introduced a coastal zone mapping in this coastal hazard line mapping. So, there is a concept of hazard line for protecting the livelihood security of the people, and also because these areas are highly under development, so that development activities has to be streamlined, and that the life of the security of the livelihood security of the coastal people has to be protected. For that, there is a concept of hazard line, coastal hazard line has also been introduced. Then critically CBCA, critically ecological sensitive area has been identified and has to be protected separately. That is under this thing. Then there is another concept called CVCA, critically vulnerable coastal area, because these areas like Vembanad, we have Vembanad called wetlands for Kerala. Like that, they have identified 12 critically vulnerable coastal area, which has to be managed through the including the coastal community and fisher folk. So that is something that is have a separate plan for CBCA, critically vulnerable coastal areas. That is also a part of the CRZ 2011 notification. So this is the new notification. There are a lot of hues and cries about that new notification, which has, they said that they have diluted that regulation so that the integrity of coast and other protection is being compromised like that. But we have to make sure, we have to see that the people who are actually living in the coast are also suffering because of the stringent regulation that is being applied there. So government has balanced both this. So for the some liberties, some leverages have been proposed in the CRZ 2019 notification, which is a recent one, which is going to be implemented very shortly. Because when you have to implement this thing, you have to have a IZ. I will show that kind of management plan has to be ready. Then only this will be implemented. So currently, it is not implemented, but it is under. This is the current notification that CRZ. Coastal Regulations or Notification 2019. So what is, there is no change in the CRZ 1 area. In the eco-sensitive areas, they have not done anything on the CRZ 1 area, ecological sensitive areas. CRZ 1B remains to be in the tidal areas, nothing has changed. Then CRZ 2, there is no change in the CRZ 2 also. Same thing remains as in the case of CRZ 2011 notification. But in the CRZ 3, where is a less developed area, they have made CRZ 3A and 3B. Like that, what happened is that CRZ 3 area, when there is population density is more than 2,161. If the population density of the coastal area is higher than 161, they have, for the benefit of the people, local community, they have made it, the no development zone has been actually reduced from 200 meters to 50 meters. But for the CRZ2 3B, where population density is more than 2,161, the no development zone, as I mentioned earlier, development zone remains to be 200. You can see clear. This has reduced to 2,050 meters in the area where there are a lot of coastal population is there. But in the other area where there is less population, it remains to be 200 meters. So this is the one change that is an aspect that is happening. But in the CRZ, they have also made some liberties for floor space index norms also, so that tourism and other infrastructure activities can be possible in the CRZ 3 areas, but not in CRZ1. They have not diluted anything in the CRZ1, but for the CRZ in the third area, they have done this so that development activities can also, and the people's economic sustenance is also possible, apart from integrating the, protect the integrity of the coast. So that is something that has changed in the case of. Then in the case of islands, the no development zone has reduced from 50 meters to 20 meters. That is also a welcome change that has happened in the case of CRZ 19 notification for the places like Kerala, Goa, where there are a lot of backwaters and the islands are there, so that activities, they are having a lot of problem with the CRZ regulation. Then for they have in the another development is that to address the pollution in the coastal areas, they have said that treatment facilities are possible in CRZ 1B areas for with the proper kind of regulation and all. This is what is happening in CRZ regulation. You know that all of you must be aware of this picture. That is first time in the world it happened. Five apartments were demolished in Kochi, Maradu, because of the violation in CRZ. So that is something that we have to say, that all the authorities are very strict on CRZ. Any violation beyond this will not be tolerated, because it is very important to protect the integrity of the coast and the livelihood of the local people. So this kind of violation will be taken up very seriously, and every coastal zone, I will come to the coastal zone management authorities. Every coastal zone management authorities are being asked by Supreme Court to find out what are the number of violations. In Kerala itself, Kerala Coastal Zone Management Authority has found out more than 25,000 violations, CRZ violations. See the thing. So this is the what is the institutional mechanism, integrated coastal zone management. For that, there is the institutional mechanism. Under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, there is a CICOM, Center for Coastal Integrated, SICO, Center for Integrated Coastal Zone Management. CICOM is the governing body. And under the NICOM, we have NCSM, National Center for Sustainable Coastal Management, that is in the Anna University campus in Chennai. This is the actually the knowledge hub, knowledge partner of this Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and the policy maker for any activities that is related to CRZ, Coastal Regulations or Notification. And as per the CRZ notification, there is National Coastal Zone Management Authority and State Coastal Zone Management Authorities has been set up as per the CRZ notification. And there is also a district level Coastal Zone Management Authority also is functioning. For Kerala, it is Kerala State Coastal Management Authority. For Tamil Nadu, it will be Tamil Nadu Coastal Zone Management Authority. So every state and district will have their Coastal Zone Management Authorities to protect this thing. So this is the IC is the Integrated Coastal Zone Management Valve for Kochi. I'll show in detail about that thing. Their entire area which are coming under CRZ1, CRZ1A, 1B, CRZ2, CRZ3, CRZ3, 4, everything has been demarcated so that there is no conflict and people know that up to what level their area is under CRZ and what all activities are permissible in that area and what activities are not permitted in that area. So this is very much clear. So every coastal district will have this kind of a CRZ map, which will be available in the case of Tuticorin also. All the coastal areas are possible. And as I said, 1:25,000 terrestrial scale, the map is being prepared. So this is the map for Kerala, entire Kerala. They have done, in the case of all the coastal districts, they have clearly specified which all districts in Kerala will come under CRZ purview. Everything is specified. And for this particular one that we are actually seeing here, actually here he is seeing this block. So that particular block, they are actually demarcating all the characteristics, road, railway line, high tide line. What is important for us is high tide line, low tide line, sea wall, all the groins, all the structures that is there, breakwaters that is there to protect the coastal, everything is demarcated, village boundary, municipality, district boundary, which for survey plot is being used for this thing. Then CRZ lines and boundary, hazard line. As I said, hazard line has been mapped. If you zoom this, it's not possible here. You can download all this for all state coastal zone management authority. They will publish this. This is available in the website. You can download and you can see that they have seen the demarcated the hazard line. You can become demarcated 100-meter line in the CRZ3 area. 200-meter CRZ no development area has been marked. CVC, as I said, critically vulnerable coastal area is marked. CRZ boundary, 500-meter line for normal CRZ1 areas. Then 100-meter for base, 50-meter for backwater islands, 100-meter, because it is for CRZ 2011. So CRZ 2019 has not been completely become functional. So this, still it is under CRZ 2011. That's why 500-meter, 100-meter way, 50-meter for backwater. Now it has reduced to 20-meter. So again, plan has to be prepared. 100-meter width of the creek, which is actually lower. Then CRZ 1A, which are areas are under CRZ 1A. Then what is the, if there is a mangrove, we have to have a 50-meter buffer zone that has to also be demarcated in the area where there is no buffer zone, means there are no activities are permissible. Then CRZ 1B water area that has been also demarcated. Then CRZ 2 area, then CRZ 3 area where there is no development activity, no development zone. The 200 to 500-meter zone is there. Then CRZ 4 2 water area, intertidal areas as, and this one is also. So everything is being demarcated, and data sources from where we are actually getting that, because as I said, the major database is NCSCM, National Center for Sustainable Coastal Management in Chennai. They are providing the HTL line, high tide line, CRZ 1A, CVCA guidelines are being prepared by NCSCM. Then Survey of India is give you the hazard line mapping is being done for entire Kerala coast, entire India coast by Survey of India. Then administrative boundary is being provided by, in the case of here, Kerala Coastal Zone Management Authority. Then national, this is being entrusted with the NSES, National Center for National Center for Earth Science Studies, NSES. In Trivandrum is the agency which actually is being entrusted with the mapping of the coastal zone ICZM management plan for Kerala. So like that, every country, every district will have, so every state will have a authority to do this, and they will prepare the map, and accordingly the things are being regulated. The activities, human activities, interventions in the coastal areas being regulated for the integrity of the coastal zone and for the sustainable development. So we know that now demand for food is increasing, and blue economy is the only source, the only future for us. So we have to have a better management of our coastal zone for our sustenance of life on Earth. Healthy ocean is a must. So in that aspect, that this conference, national conference, is very, very important. And I wish that all the success for all the for the success of this national conference. And this is one last slide, because this is the what we usually conduct a lot of activities in connection with our CWRDM. Usually conduct a lot of activities for the promotion of the protection of the coast. So this is this. So this is the bottom line that I have to say: save the sea to see the future. So our future depends on our seas, and we have to protect our seas. Then only life is fixed, and our future is secured. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Uh,
Yeah. So actually, I know that this is a vast topic, and I have to go rush through these topics to have an overview of the things that is actually there. So maybe there are some limitations are there in this aspect. I beg your pardon for that.
Thank you, sir. So, good morning to everyone. First, I thank the management, principal, and the UGC STRIDE committee members for giving me the opportunity to thank the speaker. So, today's speaker, Dr. K.R. Renjith, Scientist B, is giving a very good lecture on the importance of the coastal ecosystem and coastal pollution, how the pollutant particles affect the coastal ecosystem, and and he discussed about the pollution materials, how they are degrade the coastal ecosystem, and due to the pollution, the ocean level is maybe raised, and also it erode the coastal area also. And he discussed about the integrated coastal zone management, and he also discussed about what are the key steps to follow to sustainable development of the coastal area. And in this he discussed about the public awareness and participation and for the coastal protection, and how to conserve the coastal area and ocean ecosystem. He discussed about the industries along the coastal areas, and how they are polluted the ocean, and due to pollution, so how the ecosystem is affected. And he also discussed about the island protection zone and coastal hazardous materials, how the people and industries dump the hazard materials along the coastal areas, and how it is affect the ocean ecosystem. And also he discussed about the critically vulnerable coastal areas in the India. And finally he discussed about, finally he find out or highlight the ocean supply 60% of the food to the people around the world. So such a good lecture he is giving. We thank by the and the management of the college and the UGC STRIDE committee members. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So dear participants, we'll break for tea now, and we'll be joining back in 10 minutes for the next invited lecture by Dr. Periya.